Let's discuss the pros and cons of the 2021 Toyota RAV4 XLE. So let's talk about some basics here first. You're dealing with a 2.5-liter dynamic force 4-cylinder engine. You have a direct shift, 8-speed automatic transmission, and 203 horsepower. It's also available in all-wheel drive. So those are the basics under the hood that you're looking for. There is definitely a significant difference between the XLE and the base model LE. So let's cover those just real quick before we get too deep into the pros and cons of this vehicle in general. So first, of course, it's going to be priced differently. You're going to be going right around 27,445, they say, is the MSRP. So, you know, I'd say right around $1,500 or so more. Well, a little bit less than that, more than the LE. So with that, standard on the XLE is going to be let's talk about the alloy wheels. They're going to be 5-spoke silver alloy wheels, whereas on the LE, they're the 6-spoke silver wheel covers. So definitely a much better looking wheel base for you. You do have the chrome bezels on the multi-LED headlights. Obviously, those are automatic high beams on and off. You've got that going with the LE as well. Integrated fog lights, great. Love me some fog lights, especially when the weather's a little weird, which happens where I live quite often. Colored keyed heated power mirrors as well as door handles, so those are in play. You have a height adjustable power liftgate, and let me tell you, this liftgate is something pretty impressive, that's for sure. So you've got that on standard as well. Dual zone climate control, so no longer that single control that you get in the LE. Silver interior door handles, blind spot monitoring. Thank you. They don't have that standard in the LE, so for me, I'd be upgrading anyways. It is an option on the LE, but it comes standard here. So I would probably already be putting the money into incorporating the blind spot monitoring if I were getting the LE. So, I mean, a little bit extra money, you get the rest of these bells and whistles, which is the trap they get you into, of course. Also, we've got the stop and start engine system. Now, there are also some options that are available for the XLE that aren't available for the LE. And a lot of these, in my opinion, definitely are in the pros list for my taste. So you have the option of a moonroof, which is great. You've got the option of heated front seats. Thank you very much. You don't have that with the LE. Heated leather steering wheel, which I need that. I live in a very cold weather climate. Smart key system, so you got your push button start available as an option. You're gonna upgrade. You can upgrade from that 7-inch infotainment to the 8-inch infotainment, and you also can get some dynamic grid lines on your backup camera, and it's also obviously available with the hybrid powertrain. So now let's go specifically into some pros for the RAV4. These kind of apply in general. Obviously, the trim level, those pluses, those positives have already been covered based upon jumping up from the LE. Now let's just talk about the pros and cons of this vehicle as it is. So if you stick with the 7-inch touchscreen, it's going to already come standard with Android Auto and Apple CarPlay. So that's a pro, big pro. There really are very few vehicles out there that don't have this as a standard, but I can't believe they do. So we're going to still call it a pro. It comes standard with the Toyota Safety Sense, which is basically 6 important things. You got pre-collision system with pedestrian detection. You've got lane departure with steering assist. You've got automatic high beams, full speed dynamic radar cruise control. So you can sort of you can tell the vehicle how far behind you want to stay of the cars that are in front of you while you're on cruise control. I love that that is standard. Thank you so much. Roadside assist, and you've got lane tracing assist. So Toyota definitely likes to focus on safety, safety, safety. So, which is why I'm glad that at least the LE, the second tier up from the base, is incorporating blind spot, because I personally think you've got all 6 of those things, right? It should automatically include blind spot. Well, it's now available in the XLE as a standard. Thank you. It's fuel efficient, 28 miles per gallon in city, 35 highway. Looking back at that, I think you're gaining actually 1 mile per gallon in the city over the LE, and I'm betting that comes from the stop and start engine system. That's supposedly supposed to gain you an extra mile per gallon if you do utilize it. I can understand why you wouldn't want to. I personally don't really need that in my vehicle. I don't really enjoy it, but um, you got those standard LED headlights we already talked about, which are important. Um, Great ground clearance as well if you've got harsher conditions, deep snow, in particular where I live, or if you're taking it off road. It's got a decent ground clearance. Not definitely not first in class, that's for sure. But it's it's not going to leave you in the dust, right? So at least those first in class aren't going to. You're going to be competing quite nicely as far as ground clearance is concerned. I love the fact that you've got the all-wheel drive available for pretty much everything. Thank you very much. That's even available with that LE if you want to go very standard. You can just get that all-wheel drive and not have to worry about it. So you definitely have a rugged interior. It's going to be fabric still. You're not going to get the leather on this. It's definitely going to be rugged. It's going to be there for the family vehicle, right? So you've got lots of plastic. You've got minimal soft touch, and you're really not going to see, you're not going to see the shiny black everywhere that everybody has. It's going to have fingerprints everywhere. You're not going to get that. Definitely family friendly, which I think is a plus. Of course, it can be seen as a negative. It's not as pretty, but I'm not buying this vehicle, the XLE at least, for it to be pretty. I'm buying it for it to be functional, and that is the case as far as the interior. Soundproofing under the hood. I love the soundproofing that's under this hood. Although, I mean, it's a smaller engine. It's not making a ton of noise. It's only a 4-cylinder, but soundproofing under the hood definitely dampens that noise that you hear inside the vehicle, and it's significant. What you lift that hood up, you're going to see a lot of dampening. Okay, so I love that. Um, Comes standard with electronic parking brake, so you don't have to worry about it. It's kind of automatic as well. So if you're going down a hill, if you're facing down a hill, you don't have to worry about utilizing. Obviously, with this not being a manual, less important, but it still has its role, in my opinion. The majority of the gauge cluster up front is analog, which for me is a huge plus. I love it. I personally don't think the whole digital gauge cluster is quite there yet. As far as most brands are concerned, can be laggy, can be cartoony, and really just doesn't make me feel like I'm driving a car. It makes me feel like I'm driving a spaceship. And this is not a spaceship. This is a family vehicle, in my opinion. So I think it definitely fits with the rugged interior much nicer as well. There is a center digital screen that can host a digital speedometer in it. So that's dead center in that gauge cluster with your two analogs on the right and left hand side. So you can get you can get a little MPH meter there as well as the analog. And I like the fact that that is dead center right there. You can just see it, easy look down glance. You don't have to worry about it, and yeah, easy to see for sure. Um, you do also have multiple driving modes. So you've got sport, eco, rock, and dirt, etc. All those things. So if you wanted to get a little frisky with your Rav4, you can take it out in some more interesting conditions. You do also have great cargo room behind the second row seats. And I mean, that's what this 2-row is all about, right? You want to have plenty of cargo room back there, and this one definitely has that for you. So hard touch buttons and knob climate controls up front, which I personally need hard touch for climate control in particular. I also like it for tuning and whatnot, which this does have. However, we're going to get to a bit of a negative on that here, but as far as the climate control buttons, has everything you need. Simple, defrost, front back, max AC, AC heat, easy and intuitive for you to get your hands on, and they're always going to be in a spot that makes sense. So you're not hunting and pecking. If somebody else is driving your car, they're not hunting and pecking, trying to find the quick defrost. It's so obvious, you're not going to miss it. Huge plus, especially with all of these front ends of these vehicles becoming so busy. So busy that you can't find what you need. This is not going to be the case on the Rav4 XLE. So, 5-star safety rating from the NHTS. You've got a 4-star front crash rating and 5-star side crash, and then a 4-star rollover rating. And it's also a top safety pick from the Insurance Institute for Highway Safety. Very important. Speaking of one more thing about safety, you do have lane departure, cruise control, radar assist that are both on that steering wheel. And again, intuitive locations, easy to use. No fussing around with, arrows to accomplish what you need to do. You just hit the button, you're good to go. Right there on the steering wheel, no problem. Now let's talk about some cons, because there are a few cons. Um, First, the infotainment system, I think, definitely looks extremely dated. And that's going to be a problem, especially if you're somebody who likes to turn and burn your vehicles every 4 or 5 years. This infotainment, it's not going to be a plus for you when you go to sell it. Let me tell you that there's definitely going to be massive advancements, and there already are right now. And based upon the way the infotainment system looks, it looks like it's lagging about 4 years behind, in my opinion. All right, so take that for what it is. Um, Also, they have a free maintenance Toyota Care kind of maintenance program, right? So you get 2 years or 25,000 miles of free the maintenance that's already regularly scheduled. Now, why is that a negative? Hmm? Well, because you're already paying for that. They want to make it seem like you're not paying for this couple $100 of maintenance that you're getting done in these first 25,000 miles, but you really are. It's just built into the MSRP. It's just another way to get you to buy a vehicle, and I mean, all it is marketing. Let's be frank about that. So, if the reason why you're picking this vehicle is because of that 2 years of free maintenance up to 25,000 miles, then I don't think you've done your research, right? So, because that shouldn't be a deciding factor. But the car companies are all hoping that it will be, and other car companies are definitely doing options like that that are a bit more extended. You've got 3 years, 36,000 miles, and other, and it's a great idea. Let's just say that it's a great idea, and if it truly was free, if it truly was just a throw-in that you got, then I'm all for it. But let's be honest, it's not. It's a marketing ploy, and yeah, I don't know. I feel used. um, I also wish that the second row seats folded flatter when you fold them down for cargo space to get more things in the back. They stick up quite a bit. There's actually a pretty significant bump where they fold down, and obviously, if you're just doing, individual boxes, it's not that big of a deal. But I feel like you do lose some storage space because of it, because everything's kind of sitting cockeyed back there. So now the other end of that spectrum is that in order for it to sit lower, likely the seat entirely would have to sit lower, which would mean your knees, if you're sitting in the back, would be sticking up a bit more. So I get the give and take, but I mean, it's still a con that I got to knock just because. Second row legroom also, pretty disappointing. I mean, there's nothing back behind the cargo space, right? This isn't a 3 row. You're not trying to squeeze as many bodies into this as possible. It's just a simple 2 row. And if you're a taller person in the front passenger or driver's seats, you're probably going to be making the people in the back a little bit uncomfortable. If you are trying to get comfortable in the front seat, that means people in the back are not. So you're just going to have to, bite the bullet and not be comfortable yourself, because who wants to make everybody in the back uncomfortable? Unless they're your kids. But they'll have a little more legroom then, anyways. Also, the second row recline is garbage. Oh my goodness, it's pitiful. Why even have this thing recline at all if you're only going to go back like a couple inches? Seriously, it feels like an inch and a half is what it feels like. Um, Not my favorite. You don't have a third row. There's nothing back there. I personally think you should be able to recline back all the way flat. In my opinion, I understand there's safety concerns with that, but the recline back there is just not good. So if you're planning on taking this as a long family hauler, well, guess what? Those kids gonna be bobbing their heads, sitting pretty straight up. Which, I mean, they're kids; they don't care, right? But as parents, we want them to be able to fall asleep in that back seat as easily as possible and as often as possible. So that's something to consider. Um, I really do also dislike how the scroll, seek, and track buttons are on the far side of the infotainment system. So that means the driver has very little access to it. I mean, you got to lean across, lean over in order to access those. Now, that doesn't seem very safe. Obviously, it's not safe to do that in the first place. You don't really want to be fiddling with your radio while you're driving, so get those features in place before you get on the road. Also, you do have the ability to use your steering wheel access in order to accomplish all those goals. So you're going to have to pretty much get used to your steering wheel controls for your infotainment as far as radio and things like that are concerned. So also, I mean, we mentioned the fabric interior. Of course, this is a pretty basic level RAV4, and you're gonna get fabric, and you're gonna have to be okay with that. And a lot of people will choose not to pick this car because of that. I understand it. For me, I've got young ones, and they're gonna ruin it anyways. So, although there's something to be said about leather being a bit more capable of handling a bit more wear and tear, but I think the fabric should hold up pretty good, right? Um, I also just wish it was faster. I mean, that's my last negative, right? My last con. But then again, you're going to definitely sacrifice some miles per gallon. So there's a give and take to that as well. It's a small four-cylinder. It's not this loud beast. You're not going to get up and go too fast. It's got enough punch to get on the highway. But beyond that, you're just going to cruise in this thing, right? So that's it for the 2021 RAV4 XLE. Hopefully, you have the best of luck finding your new vehicle.